I think the Canadians will surprise a lot of people this year. I think that they got a really good group of players. The only question is, will they be able to stop pucks? I think Monteball will be given every opportunity. But I still think there's another trade coming yet. One that will most likely see Jeff Petrie traded. For what? I could only guess. But when you look at the roster, I think they got a very good roster. I think they got a really good top six up front. Their depth isn't quite there yet, but Caulfield and Suzuki leading the way. They're not going to be a pushover this year. They're not going to be a bottom 10 team. I'm not saying that they're a playoff team by any stretch of the imagination, but I also, wouldn't be surprised if they found a way to get into the playoffs. I personally don't see it. I think they'll just fall short, but I also wouldn't be surprised because, that defense, it's another year of growing. They did great last year. Same thing for the forwards and for Monteball, who had a great year. Sam Monteball had a great year in net for the Habs last year and then went to the World Championships and won gold and was just phenomenal for Team Canada. So there is that. These kids will continue to grow and continue to get better, and I think they're going to make a real push. I don't think they're better than Toronto. I'm not going to say they're better than this team or they're better than that team or whatever. I know Pittsburgh just acquired Erik Karlsson. I don't even know if that pushes Pittsburgh in. That they're really good. They were really good. I think Tristan Jarry is probably one of the most overrated goaltenders in the league. Everyone looks at the save percentage every year and says that's a good goalie. And yet Pittsburgh hasn't won a playoff series in over 5 years. So I don't believe in him personally. And they don't really have a backup. Not at the moment. That DeSmith was just traded to Montreal. So I don't know who the backup in Pittsburgh is going to be unless they got someone down the pipeline that they believe is ready. I think so. Your three teams in the Metropolitan Division are pretty simple, in my opinion. The top three, you know who they are. Carolina, New York Rangers, New Jersey Devils. Those are your three. I don't think it's so simple in the Atlantic Division. Both the Boston Bruins and the Tampa Bay Lightning got, I'm not going to say much worse, but they both got worse. And Boston really does need to trade for a center. Because if they go in to the regular season with Pavel Zacha being number one center, it's not a division team, and it's probably not even a playoff team. So, if they really need an upgrade, let me explain it to you like this. The Montreal Canadiens were a mid-tier team for many years. And there was a big reason for that. Why they weren't getting into the playoff. They came close. They came close. Many times. 2019, they were eliminated in Game 82, so they did come close. But they didn't have a number one. They didn't have a number one center, and you kind of need a number one center. It's great that you have guys that can score and set up plays and, create all sorts of offensive chances. But none of that matters if you don't have the puck. You got to have someone that's a number one center who can win you a face-off or two so that your other great players can be great. Because let me tell you something, David Pastrnak is not going to be that great if no one can get him the puck. That's just the truth of it. And that's like any player. That could happen to Ovechkin in Washington this year, and it very well might. Tampa Bay, their great players are still their great players. They just don't have any depth. Vasilevsky, still the best goalie in the world. So I do believe they are a playoff team. I just don't know where. And Ottawa, man, Ottawa. They went out and got Corpuscello. They're banking on him. The fact that he's going to be good enough. Let's hope so. I personally don't know if he is. And they really overpaid him. But time will see. They got a lot of young forwards. The Brady Tkachuk's leading the way there. It's a great team in Ottawa. Not much defense, though. That would be a major concern. Buffalo, they're building a thing. They got Tage Thompson leading the way there with Dylan Cousins and all of them. And Owen Power and Rasmus Dahlin on defense. The question for Buffalo is goaltending. Can they get a save? If yes, they very well might be a playoff team. The Detroit Red Wings are also known as the team that no one cares about. Because, I mean, they haven't really done anything that anyone gives a shit about. They got okay goaltending. They got Mo Seider on defense. Their defense is actually pretty decent. But their best acquisition is Alice DeBrincat. And no offense to DeBrincat, but he's not like superstar tier. He's definitely a star. But I wouldn't put him in the superstar tier. And you just look at the additions. They're okay. They can make the playoffs. They can miss the playoffs. They're what I call a mid-tier team. Then you got the Florida Panthers. This is the one team that I look at this year and say, they got no chance. 0 chance of making the playoffs. They all they did was lose. They lost in the Stanley Cup Finals, and then they lost in the offseason. Montour won't start the season. Ekblad won't start the season. Duclair's moved on. You're looking at all these sorts of players who... Rocco Gudas went to Anaheim. Like you're looking at all these sorts of players who really helped you be the Stanley Cup finalist that you were. Alex Lyon, no longer a member of the Florida Panthers. He's moved on. And then you got Sergei Bobrovsky, who's probably the most flip goaltender I've ever seen. One moment he's God, and the next moment he's the worst goalie you'll ever see. So, with missing your top 3 defensemen to start the season, and you don't know what type of goaltending you have, and missing a lot of good depth up front, I think the Florida Panthers have potential to really bottom out this year. And a lot of people aren't talking about it, but I don't think they're going to be very good. It's just so hard to see who's going to take those 2 wild cards, man. Well, the New York Islanders are still there. You know, Columbus Blue Jackets are going to make a push. I don't think the Blue Jackets are going to be good enough, but they'll make a push. Montreal Canadiens are going to be right there, in my opinion, as I've mentioned. The East is just so much more interesting than the West. The West, there's not much to talk about, so I'm not going to talk about it. But in the East, man, it's really there for the taking. Who wants it? Who wants it? We haven't even talked about the Capitals.